Defund your cops. Go right ahead. You think the evil in men's hearts that's been around since the beginning of time has all of a sudden disappeared because you made some kind of flowery talk? Folks, I cannot emphasize this enough. Liberalism is cutesy in the esoteric, non-real world. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this defund the police movement is quite possibly the dumbest, most suicidal idea I've ever heard in American history, but I don't put stupid ideas past liberals. Matter of fact, they pride themselves on them. Now, before we get to the content, in case you think I'm making this up, that they want to actually defund and remove police departments from some cities in America, I'm going to play their actual sound from people in charge. A Minneapolis city council member where they have a veto-proof Democrat majority that have actually voted for this. I'm going to play her sound in a minute, but I want to be clear on something about this defund the police because I don't want to start Monday on a macabre down note because I know I get your emails. I read your emails. I sympathize and empathize with you. Many of you are saying this in your communications with me and Paula. You're saying, Dan, it's over. The country's lost. Defund the police. We've got economic unconstitutional lockdowns going on. You had job losses. Folks, I get it. Despair, sadly, is everywhere. And I'm not here to give you a Pollyanna-ish, there's not going to be a fight ahead. Don't worry, everything's going to be peaches and cream, folks. That's not me. But I am here to tell you this on a positive note. Everything, ladies and gentlemen, everything runs in cycles. Everything. I said this to Joe before the show because he was depressed about it too. Not kidding. We have long conversations before the show as we're getting the technical stuff up. And I said, Joe, I've seen this before. If you grew up in New York City in the 70s and 80s, you know what street and urban chaos looks like because you were there. Turnstile jumping, everything from graffiti to property crimes to murder assaults, thousands of homicides a year in New York City. Thousands of people murdered in America's largest city, New York. Graffiti everywhere. Petty theft everywhere. Public urination, drunkenness, you name a crime, rapes, assaults, murders, gang violence, everywhere. Eventually, ladies and gentlemen, that crime hit home. When enough people, tragically, sadly, had their cars broken into, their daughters and sons robbed on the way to school, their daughters and sons tragically killed by drug dealers on corners. When enough people had that hit them in the gut and it came home and visited them at their house and that Grim Reaper was knocking on their door. Eventually, ladies and gentlemen, all the politics stopped. They had hit the natural valley, the trough, and they'd had enough. They didn't vote for Giuliani because he was a Republican. A lot of Democrats voted for Giuliani, who, of course, took over the mayorship from David Dinkins in the middle of the chaos. They voted for Rudy Giuliani because he was a United States attorney known for law and order. The Republican label meant very little to people. I say that, ladies and gentlemen, because we're hitting that bottom now. And liberalism is nice and cute to talk about until liberalism castrates you, kicks you in the teeth. I was talking to Paul this week, and you ever see the movie Black Hawk Down, folks? I know I always get these pop culture references wrong, but I'm sure about this one. I've seen that movie, but it's a great movie. I've seen it, terrific. I've seen it probably close to 30 times. Portions of it probably close to 100 times. And I had the distinct pleasure when I was in the Secret Service of going to kind of a briefing, like a hot wash kind of briefing afterwards with Matt Eversman, who was one of the chalk sergeants who was there in the Black Hawk. He's the character played by Josh Hartnett. And he was amazing. And there's a scene in that movie where one of the Delta guys is talking to the Josh Hartnett, Matt Eversman character. And he asks the Delta Force operator, Hartnett, he says, listen, what do you think about us being here, in Somalia? And the Delta guy turns to him and he says, you know what I think? Nobody gives a damn what I think. I think is when those bullets come flying your way, all those politics and S-word, that all goes out the window. What does that have to do with what I'm talking about? It's everything. When the bullets start coming your way, your neighborhood descends into complete chaos. Drug dealers, the mob, organized crime, and potential terror groups move to your city because there'll be no policing. Your businesses get looted and robbed. God forbid there's a terror attack. Organized mobs start shaking you down for tribute, money. Cartels start taking over the sanitation industry. You know the sanitation industry? You know why that was a big deal in New York? You're like, what the hell does that have to do with anything, Dan? You know why the sanitation industry was a big deal? Ladies and gentlemen, if you own a business, do you pull garbage cans out to the curb like you do in your house? Of course you don't. You have industrial-sized waste containers outside. Private companies in New York, companies all have to have contracts. The sanitation department doesn't pick that stuff up. Private companies do. The mob own that. Oh, you want a business? Yeah, you need sanitation. I've got a suggestion. I remember Mr. T was one of the companies. I'm not suggesting they had mob time. I'm just saying that was one of the companies we used in the bagel store I worked in. But they'd come in, the mobsters would come in, and they'd say, hey, I suggest you use Joey Bag of Donuts sanitation. No, it's okay. We're going to go, Mr. T, and said, I don't think that's a good idea. I think Joey Bag of Donuts sanitation is a really good idea. It's going to be $5,000 a month. But Mr. T is $100 a month. I think this is a better deal for you. You picking up what I'm putting down? Joe, God forbid your place burned down. I don't know how that would happen. You know, God forbid some people came in and shook down your place with guns on a center. I'm not saying we would do that, Joey Bag of Donuts sanitation. Wink and a nod. I'm just saying you should probably use our sanitation company, which was pretty much every business in New York. You like that? You like getting shaken down? Defund your cops. Go right ahead. You think the evil in men's hearts that's been around since the beginning of time has all of a sudden disappeared because you made some kind of flowery talk? Folks, I cannot emphasize this enough. Liberalism is cutesy in the esoteric, non-real world. And as I was explaining to Armacost, they get away with this all the time. They can hike taxes, crush the economy. You know what they do in the media? They just use the media to say, Ronald Reagan did it. What do you mean? You guys hiked taxes and the economy collapsed. Reagan's been dead. It doesn't matter. Reagan and the media, because they're morons, parrots it. And that's how Democrats avoid accountability. You may say, well, Dan, why would it just not happen again? Crime rates will spike. They'll go through the roof and they'll just blame the Republicans. They'll try. But when the bullet comes through your front window, God forbid,